Welcome to episode 37 of Why Not Read Alpha Flight with Tom Flynn
and Chris Baker, a podcast where we take your favorite series seriously. After the big shakeups in issue 50 last episode, look at that, Tom, I got it right this time. We are in for a new era of Alpha Flight, and we are kicking it off in a great way with a 3-part arc. I guess this is an arc, right?
I would call it an arc. It's the closest thing we've had to an arc in a while. It's been a lot of one-offs.
One off, two off, just kind of chunks is what it feels like to me. Chunks, not arcs.
And really, like, the length of it determines exactly how many Alphans or supporting characters die. If it's a one-off, it's one. If it's two off, well, if it's a two off, it's an entire bloodline.
Well, oh, dude. But in 50, we got rid of 3 in 1. But that one had been built up for a while, and Bill just needed to release.
With that, let's refresh ourselves on the stories so far. We'll kick things off with who isn't here anymore. In the last 10 issues or so, we have said goodbye to several original team characters who have left the team alive, including Shaman, Puck, Northstar, and Aurora.
The living will envy the dead, Tom. This episode's deceased roster is brought to you by Spotify listener Flying Melon, who has submitted my new favorite, My Life with the Bill Kill Cult. On the list this episode is, as per usual, team founder and husband of Heather, Dr. James McDonald Hudson, a.k.a. Guardian, along with Snowbird, a.k.a. Narya, and her husband and baby.
That we can say Snowbird's whole family is just gone as per usual, kind of lets you know where things are. The main Alpha Flight team is down to just 3 members proper now, led by the totally human Heather Hudson, wearing an electromagnetic controlling power suit that mimics her husband's, though Heather's is constructed from the remains of the robot that killed Mac. You know, it's a funny bit, but it's also just very, very dark. So maybe I'll just stop doing that.
It's a dark book.
The other members are Mr. Madison Jeffries in the box with an X armor, which I will never stop saying. And a white Sasquatch who turns into the very female human Wanda Lankowski. Yeah, I'll say the K for Wanda. But has the mind of secret agent linebacker superhero Dr. Walter Langowski. And yeah, we're gearing up for that talk, but it's not quite ripe yet. We want to spend a little more time with Wanda, since we barely spent any time with Wanda to date.
That is the next arc, but not the next episode. That there's an issue titled Identity Crisis. So like it's coming. We're going to get our talk. And I appreciate that this has been given some time to ripen, as you said. Alpha Flight has taken under its wing 2 young members to make up the new Beta Flight. First is little Kara Kilgrave, 13 years old, aka the Purple Girl. Her skin is purple, as you could have guessed, and she can mentally dominate anyone within range of her pheromones. She is a 13-year-old girl who smells weird, but with a twist.
And surgical resident Dr. Whitman Knapp, whose power makes Omega Flight villain Flashback look simple and flies in the face of how evolution actually works.
His codename is Mannequin with a K, and young Dr. Knapp is shooting up the Who's Going to Replace Walt as Our Most Hated Character list.
I think he's already overtaken Walt, to be honest.
He is not pleasant. Actually, he is perfectly pleasant, and it's the fact that, you know what, we'll save it. Today, we pick up in the aftermath of issue number 50 and are beginning an all-new, all-different period of Alpha Flight with 0 original members carrying the story forward. Well, I mean, okay, does Sasquatch Wanda count as an original member?
Heather seems to think so, and I would argue, yeah.
Presumably, they have, like, the memories, so they have some institutional knowledge, except for that gap where they were dead.
And a lot happened in that gap.
A lot happens in Alpha Flight, doesn't it? So without further ado, let's find out what this new era is going to be about.
Kicking things off with Alpha Flight number 51, titled Friends in High Places! Cover date October 1987. The writer is Bill Mantlo. The penciler is some completely unknown and inconsequential guy named, let me see, what was it? Oh yeah, Jim Lee. I still can't believe that. Inker is Willis Portacio. Letterer is Janice Chong. Colorist is Bob Sharon. Editor is Carl Potts. Editor-in-chief is Jim Shooter.
On the cover is Sasquatch angrily throwing a huge boulder at a bunch of terrified army guys holding rifles and wearing helmets.
They are not equipped to be fighting Sasquatch.
Okay, Tom. Okay. What should they be equipped with to fight Sasquatch? Help me out.
They should all have their own box with an X armor if they're going to be squaring up. Like, I'm sorry, they're just meat sacks when it comes to Sasquatch. I don't know what else to tell you.
It's like when they send the army guys after the Hulk, and they've got all the helmets and they've got all the rifles and they're shooting at the Hulk. Do those poor bastards have to stand there and be like, why am I doing this? It's just making him mad, which by definition makes him stronger. Don't you people read the comic books?
I had a buddy named Tony. He was in this other division. They went up against the Hulk. Like I said, I had a buddy named Tony, and they went up against the Hulk.
The Hulk's presence in a place is not a Hulk situation. The big firefight and the Hulk throwing tanks around and knocking buildings down, that's a Hulk situation. So if we don't send the tanks, he can't throw them. And yes, we're talking about street protests and police. That's right, folks. We're still talking about the cover. Heather is flying and blasting her green energy signature again, despite the energy signature being yellow on the very first page. The background of the page is yellow. Why is her power colored green to accommodate other coloring decisions so often? It's like her power signature is only green for the cover. It's weird. Weird. And rounding out Heather's killin' trio is Mr. Jeffries in the box armor that he has transmuted into a tank-type thing and is blasting energy from his hands. His hands have not turned into guns. He's shooting it from his hands.
This version of Box is super cool. Like, it just is. But only so long as you don't think about it too hard. He's like Plastic Man, but metal. He's Metal Man, which is another DC reference that I'm not sure Chris clocked.
I did not. I think that this issue of Alpha Flight is the issue I see in dollar bins the most, as in, like, literally every store or stand I flip through, if it has Alpha Flight, it has this issue. Maybe tied with number 53 later in the episode, they are both very common. One last note, the corner box has a full figure white Sasquatch and heads for Heather, Box, and Kara, but no Knapp because he sucks.
Best choice in a while.
Splash page opening is the team in the midst of a battle with Kara and Knapp kind of cowering next to them. Alpha Flight is repelling a land, sea, and air invasion of their home base, Tamarind Island, by the Canadian military, which we find out halfway through the issue is part of a training exercise. It is not an actual attack by the Canadian military. Gary Cody and Department H want to get a feel for the new team's dynamics and power levels after so many changes.
An incredibly expensive exercise because there's a whole lot of material damaged by the team. Like, not just damaged, totaled.
I count 6 tanks and 1 helicopter destroyed. I tried looking up the cost to replace each Leopard tank, but I got bored very quickly. Looks to be at least $15 million to replace just the vehicles that we saw get smashed.
We're going to hit the highlights because the first half of this issue is the fight, and it's just here to help us meet everyone and get what they're all about.
Presumably, this is being sold or solicited as a jumping on point for people, and I can see where this whole arc has a lot of history and putting history to rest, but in ways that make this team doing it make sense. So this does feel like a newcomer's arc.
Well, this has also been a running theme for some time of trying to make every book a jumping on point. And I will say this is more effective than a lot of the other ones where it feels like you open the issue, you flip 2 pages, and suddenly it's a wall of text to catch you up on everything that's happened.
It lets you know whether you're supposed to be picking this up right away or not, is the amount of text on that recap page.
Very much so. At one point, Box turns into a big, one-wheeled killing machine, blasting tanks left and right as it rolls over the edge of the cliff to drop onto the landing boat beneath him. It boggles the mind to try to believe he didn't kill anyone there.
He looked like he was having a lot of fun. Just, oh, here I go, blasted again.
Or in a fugue state, and he thinks he's back in Nam. Hard to say.
Oh, man, we haven't even talked about that, but ooh, I'm going to be thinking about that every time Box gets engaged. Actually, yeah, later this episode, now that I think about it. I think my favorite line of the fight is Sasquatch thinking, I've given more workouts to more bodies than Jane Fonda. Which, there's a couple ways you can consider that, and the one that Sasquatch is meaning here is not the one that you're probably thinking about. He also seems... I said he. I typed it as he, actually, because White Sasquatch sounds like Sasquatch. You know what I mean? Like, it never occurs to you that this is a different person, because it is not. Sasquatch also takes a direct hit from a tank shell and seems to be bleeding, which the amount of durability of Sasquatch has never really been established. There's not a lot of times we've seen him get overtly injured. I think it was that one guy, that one-off villain in the power armor that they went and stopped, and he shot him, and Walt was like, "Hey, I felt that. Hey, right. I felt that."
Right, but we've almost never seen any bloodshed. Correct. Like, it's interesting.
I get the distinct impression that white Sasquatch is less powerful than orange Sasquatch, regardless of the human that white Sasquatch turns into. I always got the feeling that this was more of a Sasquatch as opposed to Walt's Sasquatch with the gamma and the great beast upgrade.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's reasonable. While we've been told that this Sasquatch and this body overall is a composite of Walt, which makes no sense, the Great Beast Tanorak, and Snowbird. When Snowbird turned into the White Sasquatch, it was never really suggested that she could go toe-to-toe with Walt as Sasquatch, necessarily. Although, the White Sasquatch and Tanorak did square off at one point. Yes. And she did have the whole team helping her. I don't know. You know what? We're getting lost in the mire of like power levels for superheroes, you know?
To bring it behind the curtain, listeners, I keep track of some bigger picture themes for us to be able to hammer home as we close out Volume 1. But one of those themes that I've got here is how fast and loose Mantlo plays with superpowers. That he's not working within how the powers work in order to tell a story. He's telling a story, and then the powers work however he needs them to tell that story. And this is very different than how most of the X writers have handled things, because when you're making changes to powers, like, there's gotta be a reason for it. Otherwise, the listeners jump your ass.
Well, readers in this case. But yeah.
Oh, yes. See, now I got the issues episode right on the upfront, and now I got listeners and readers confused.
But I mean, I think that's a very good point, especially when you consider everything that's going on with Box and the energy blasts and the power source and just...
What is the power source? Is he transmutating a nuclear furnace in his belly? Does he have to keep that stable all the time? How does it work? Mantlo thread. Purple Girl and Knapp acquit themselves well with clever first moves, but are quickly undone by not really thinking through their second moves because they're extremely new at this. Maybe part of the beta flight training needs to be an intensive chess program. I think that makes sense. I think that running for federal office, you should have to live stream your play of Civilization.
We'll leave that one
there. A lot of folks just nodded their heads without realizing it. As the team regroups for their final push, Box says, "Good going, Beta." And Knapp picks up an automatic pistol from the ground and says, "You can't call us the Playpen Patrol after this!" and starts blasting away at presumably live human beings with presumably live ammo. He is a doctor, Tom. He has graduated medical school. Why is he okay with being grouped with a 13-year-old and tolerating being treated like a kid?
Oh, you know why.
Oh, God. Is he one of those dudes that goes back to high school at 24 or something and, like, just pretends to be a high schooler? I heard a thing on the radio about it recently.
Of course you did. Those stories are always the things that, like, get 20 radio hits and 5 articles, and it happens once every 10 years.
I think the Hippocratic Oath should have an amendment in regards to automatic pistols, though. By an amendment, I mean, and you shouldn't use an automatic pistol.
Oh, we knew exactly what you meant.
Thou shalt do no harm unless it's with an automatic pistol. The team talks with Gary Cody after the battle, and Heather says,
"We're also a far more cohesive team than Mac's maladjusted amalgam of misfits ever was." Ouch. That's bound to make us a more effective fighting force. Don't you agree, Gary?
Ouch is right. Like, come on. You loved the man, right? Or was he the only man you had ever known?
Cody looks around the smoking battlefield and thinks, equal in power to the old Alpha, well adjusted, more effective. May heaven help us mere mortals. See, I would argue that he has to have a voice with some resonance just to hold on to his job. Like, there has to be something that is, like, convincing people to, like, this is a good spokesman type. You know what I mean?
Well, not just to hold on to his job, but to be able to walk into any room and just smoking. He's the original cigarette smoking man. My headcanon now is that the X-Files stole the cigarette smoking man from Gary Cody. That's his aggressively cute nickname. Cigarette smoking man, Gary Cody.
Isn't Chris Carter created the X-Files? Isn't he Canadian?
Have we unlocked another secret to the universe, Tom?
No, he's not. He was born in California. Never mind.
Close enough.
The team invites Cody over to Mansion Alpha to continue their discussion and for some cold ones. While Heather had informed Department H of the death of Roger Box and Madison's assumption of the Box with an X armor, she hadn't yet filed a report on Wanda.
So who did Gary Cody think was the white Sasquatch in battle? Had she not told them that Snowbird died? Did he just think it was Snowbird?
That would require telling them that Snowbird came back, because last they knew she'd gone back to the God realm, but then she shacked up with the Doug.
Okay. New headcanon forming here. So Heather has kept Doug Thompson's death a secret. I think Heather has set up Doug's paychecks and benefits to flow into her account as her secret bolt hole, like, way out, that she's now committing Social Security fraud. And she's got the kids coming in for the dead mom. Oh, God.
Yeah, if the head of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Outpost didn't like Anne McKenzie's track record, he must really think Doug's a fuck up at this point.
But I can't fire him. There's some computer thing going on. It's just Jeffries checking off his monthly checklist of, oh, yeah, make sure Doug's listed as alive. Classic Department H levels of competence there. As the team freshens up, they leave Gary alone to rudely smoke cigarettes in their mansion while looking at a big old oil painting of JMH. Gary takes the opportunity to muse about how his role as liaison between Alpha Flight and Department H has mostly turned into spying on the team as he inserts a quote-unquote radar disk into the Alpha Next computer to steal all the team's data so Department H will know what's actually going on. Which, yeah, Gary, that makes you a spy. You are secretly taking their secrets. What are you doing here, buddy?
His job. The issue wraps with the whole team showing up to thank Gary Cody for always having their backs and being a totally good dude to them.
# foreshadowing. Worth noting, Wanda is wearing, as her casual outfit for the evening, a fitted blouse with shoulder pads and a collar clasped with a brooch and a pleated skirt of undetermined length and a tight sash around her waist. It is a very fetching outfit. The skirt even has pockets. So my question is, did someone take Wanda shopping?
There's no way in hell that's what Kara picks out for her, so it would have had to have been.
Because it's kind of it's a very forward 80s look, but it is also a very old-fashioned look, you know? Like, it's a look, it's an outfit, it's a discussion piece outfit. This isn't I just grabbed it and put it on, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's fashionable. I mean, we know that Heather has a sense of fashion, but with all of her glasses and the economic strain that put on her marriage. But no, just I think Heather took her shopping, and you know that's too bad that we didn't get that montage because
I wouldn't want Bill to write it, but yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff there.
That's a very fair point. But I do remember an X-Men issue where they all go shopping, and I think it's when Carol Danvers is still fighting over control of Rogue's body, and it turns into a whole thing in a mall, and that was kind of neat though to see like it turned into a superhero battle. But it started off with them just shopping in the mall and that sort of interplay with the quotidian everyday and then, you know, all of the explosions. It was just kind of fun.
You know, there was another great uncanny issue of Jean going shopping. I think it was early Onslaught or something like that. But it was just probably 6 pages or so of her just going shopping and overhearing the thoughts of the people around her and how jarring and uncomfortable it was to know for a fact what other people are thinking about you when they're looking at you over and over and over and over and over again, especially when you look like Jean Grey. But this isn't a shopping podcast, Tom, although no, that wouldn't be fun for anyone. What did we think about Jim Lee's first issue?
It's clean in a way that feels a bit more like Byrne than some of the other artists we've had.
Although Brigman is clean as well. Like, I really have found the balance to be nice.
I'll have a lot more to say about Brigman's art because she does the number 52 issue, and I think it's actually quite distinct from the rest of her work in Alpha Flight, and for the better. Like I'm actually kind of pissed that we didn't get more of that earlier, but
I can tell that she saw how Jim put this together and then snapped it in 52, and it really snaps into place for her, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, but she's also doing some very distinct things from what Jim Lee is doing here. Lee handles the various elements of the story well, the action, the flashbacks, the hanging around the mansion stuff, all of it done very, very well, very clean, and visually, it's one of those things about comics, right? If you ripped all the words off the page, can you follow the story? And for some stories, you can't because, the dialogue is deeply important. It's about the personal interplay, but I feel like in a lot of ways you could have read this comic without the words and been 90% of the way there, and that's really important for the kind of storytelling we're getting here.
Yeah, the panel use and construction of the page is nothing to write home about, but that's Jim Lee. He knows what he's good at, and he does it all day long.
But overall, yes, I'm excited to see what the rest of his run will look like. But again, I really like the art in number 52, which is a good jumping off point because without any further ado, Alpha Flight number 52, titled Spectres! Exclamation point. I mean, I hope my voice got that across. There's an exclamation point, but But on the cover, it says Flashback. Cover date November 1987. So there's that going on. Script by Bill Mantlo, pencils by June Brigman, inks by Wills Portacio, letters by Janice Chong, editor is Carl Potts, and editor-in-chief is Tom DeFalco?
That's right, folks. It's the end of an era. Since we're doing a 3-issue arc this episode, we're going to hang on to some more in-depth discussion of Shooter and DeFalco until next time. I have started listening to the audiobook of Marvel Comics' The Untold Story to get a better understanding of the background bullpen stuff, and this book is fascinating. What I'm taking away from it is, poor Jack Kirby.
I think we all know poor Jack Kirby.
Oh, more people need to know it in better depth. Like, I knew it before, but now that I'm hearing it all, whew. Poor Jack Kirby.
On the cover...
Poor everybody involved in comic books, frankly.
Yeah. On the cover, we have Puck, Sasquatch, and Aurora leaping into action alongside Wolverine and JMH.
It's no secret that Alpha Flight hasn't found its footing. So, of course, we're going to be bringing in some guest stars, but is Aurora even in this issue?
No.
I don't think she has been discovered at the time of the flashback either. So, why is Aurora there other than somebody wanted to draw Aurora, I guess?
Yeah, I don't remember her being in the issue whatsoever. At the end of the last issue, a box at the bottom of the final page suggested that issues would only be available at select outlets and via subscription. I don't know if that was an industry-wide thing addressing some specific problem or a choice based on sales, but I just thought I'd throw it in here. I have no supporting evidence or thoughts, like a champ, but I just found that kind of interesting to see there.
What I'm taking from the book is that, yes, quite possibly, that it had been, I think I'm up to 1972, and they were talking about the headbutting between, Roy Thomas is editor-in-chief, Stan is the publisher, and then the guy above him. It was Martin Goodman, but now it's not Martin Goodman anymore. But, the publisher's job is to make sure that everything gets physically published and produced. But the guy above, the Martin Goodman role, that's the guy whose job is actually, what I've come to realize, is selling paper. That what you're doing is you are buying paper as cheaply as possible, making as little alteration to it as you have to, and then putting it in newsstands for people to pay you way more than you paid for that paper. What is printed on that paper, you don't give a fuck about. Because it doesn't matter. What you're doing is selling paper. And so the publisher's job is to be figuring out what to put onto that paper. And then the editor's job is making sure that what is put on that paper is going to sell. And that's where the creative process happens. But at the publisher level is where the creative process stops. Because now you're in the business of selling paper. And that was really helped to unlock that thought in my head of the difference between the creative process that we all fell in love with. That's why you're listening to this podcast, right? That what we thought of as the company that Stan had been telling us through the bullpen has no reality whatsoever with the business of selling paper. rant off.
Quick note, while Chris was ranting, I just took a quick look back. And I mean, I was listening, but I took a quick look back through the issue. And Aurora is in it, as small as she possibly could, alongside of Northstar in the background scene of the original 6. So
What? That's it?
Yeah, well, that's also true of Puck. Like, I mean, no one...
Yeah, but he wasn't on the fucking cover.
Well, but that's the thing.
He wasn't on the fucking cover.
But that's the thing, right? Like, this is how much Mantlo doesn't like Northstar, that he didn't even include...
Or Puck.
Or Puck. Anyways, moving right along.
So as we start off the new era, we gotta have a Wolverine appearance and a JMH flashback. It's like issue number 13 all over again. And with June Brigman doing the pencils in between these two new Jim Lee issues, I kind of wonder why we get Jim, June, Jim. I'm sure there's an explanation for it and whatnot, but I wonder if this story as a flashback was partially done or something, and then they kind of built Jim stuff around it to help pad out the number of months the story took, because this is for everything that happens, these stories have a lot of space to them,
Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely feels like this arc is a way to sort of get Jim up and running in a certain sense. I mean, it's obviously establishing the all new look to Alpha Flight, but it actually feels more cohesive in a way than it having been done months back and then it getting like some
it
extra
does feel
adornment.
Cohesive, but then why slap her in the middle of it? I don't know.
Well, I mean, maybe it's, again, it could be timing, it could be logistics, but it feels, I'll say this, if it feels cohesive enough to feel competent, and that strikes me as bizarre. Like competency doesn't really feel like the name of the game when it comes to how these issues get done. But hey.
Ouch, indeed.
It's an all-new Alpha Flight, right?
One thing I noticed is the color palette is deeper and more muted than usual for Alpha Flight. I always chalked it up to making it look like a flashback type thing, but who knows? The only name on the cover is Nolan, and Comic Vine lists Kevin Nolan as the cover artist. Quick search shows he did cover work on Alpha Flight between issues 44 and 54, sometimes solo, sometimes inking coloring. Looks like he's credited on about 100 Marvel books that I can see, but no runs anywhere that were his on a book. He's a utility infielder, I guess. Quarter Box is a full figure of Box and heads for the others minus Knapp because Knapp sucks.
I glanced back at previous issues, and I have to say that this is exactly what I wanted and hoped for from Brigman's run. There's something dynamic and a particular point of view in the art. Cody's beard feels lush and sculpted and not just a larger brown on the page. Heather's face underwater suggests she's holding her breath. The panels are emphasizing all of this, the action, the emotion, the horror. I mean, honestly, it's absolutely one of my favorite issues art-wise.
Jim Lee's brief stint on the book gets a lot of attention, but I think Brigman is a great fit for this book. I can see she did a dozen early Power Pack issues and a bunch of other stuff here and there, but it seems Power Pack and Alpha Flight were her longest running assignments.
Splash page opening is a delightful callback to issue number 1 of the decommissioned Department H headquarters deep beneath Parliament Hill. It's an exact recreation of that issue's opening page, but instead of JMH looking around forlornly, it's Gary Cody.
And he's wearing what is my favorite name technology in all of comics. It's a flat tablet computer, I guess, with a neck strap. So it holds itself like a tray, like an old-fashioned cigarette girl's tray against his stomach. And there's a monocle headset that lets him see stuff from it, upward vocal fry, but it is named the portaputer.
Can't believe I have to say that. Gary and his portaputer are poking around in the information he stole last issue, and he finds a deep, dark secret. Specifically, that in the early days, Department H and Alpha Flight founder James McDonald Jimmy Ladd Hudson was having a little bit of trouble finding superpowered individuals after he stumbled across Wolverine 100 kilometers from nowhere in the snow on his honeymoon, after leaving Wolverine and his late teens wife alone while he went for help.
So he did what any of us would do. He took a convicted murderer and tried to turn him into a superpowered being to avoid losing funding or being fired. I'm not saying it's right, but I understand, I guess.
I find it interesting how many folks with untapped or not turned on powers that just seem to be floating around, because that's exactly what Knapp was too. Like, he has superpowers. He had the capacity for it. He just needed an inciting incident to turn it on, which makes him different from the mutants, where it's puberty that typically triggers it. So,
well, yeah, we haven't been told that Knapp is a mutant. He just has a power. I assumed he was a mutant.
But I don't think he is. I think he's something else.
He's an eternal being that has actually evolved himself like this as a singular unit.
I mean, that would explain why he sees age as nothing but a number. I think I broke Chris.
I think we cracked the code.
You know what? That's what we're going to go with, because ethically...
Can we put a Lord Q in there right there?
Because ethically and morally, that's way better than anything else that's going on here.
God help us all. He's like Ego, the living planet, except he's just a dude. He's just a speck. In the abandoned Department H base, Cody finds the secret lab JMH used to conduct his experiment. He thinks to himself, and this is a lengthy quote, but this is going to be important all the way through the end of Volume 1.
If Hudson did succeed in creating a super being, then there's no limit to the number of superhumans that might exist in the world. A new race could be created right here in the laboratory. It's starting to sound like Scramble. Superhumans turned out on an assembly line to outnumber, or certainly to overpower, mere humans. Such an experiment would spell the end of mankind, and any data on it should be destroyed. On the other hand, super beings exist already, some born with power, others who've gained them by accident. Nations fund some, fight others, and fear and distrust them all. But if we could breed and control our own...
Oh, that ended weird, didn't it?
He went on a bit of a journey there. More than a bit of a journey. He was like talking himself through how this is a terrible idea, and then circled right back around to it's
you know what? Now who's worried about losing their funding and committing horrific crimes against humanity? Gary Cody.
I think Gary Cody's always worried about that, and he just...
Oh yeah, ever since he was squatting in like the Prime Minister's
exactly.
office.
He just happened to have a moment where like ethics and morality kicked in, and then like, whoop, nope, can't do that.
I got a mortgage, folks.
That does not pay the bills. I
really like my condo. It has
man, I like poutine, and it ain't cheap.
Inside the secret lab, Cody finds a super gross-looking human-sized cocoon with a bunch of red tendrils suspending it from the ceiling. It looks like a poorly cleaned peach pit. And Tom, I think there's a 90210 joke here, but I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know, then again, with our age demo. Yeah, I think Richter seems to be an outlier, is all I'm saying.
Richter definitely helps to bring our average age down. And we appreciate that. Scene change to Tamarind Island on what we are told is a gentle summer evening, as well as the anniversary of JMH's death. Which anniversary we are not told. Well, I guess 2 years, 3. So is that paper? Is that what you?
No, I'm thinking about the character in this issue of Heather.
Yes, I know. I know. So what do you give a widow on the second anniversary? Oh. Is that paper? Do you give her like the death certificate? And then do you like...
Stop. You know what? Maybe it's been 1 year. Let's see. Yeah, the last, 30-something issues of Alpha Flight? 1 year in Heather's life. I think that's what Mantlo is going for without saying it. But he said the anniversary. The anniversary is the first one, right? Shut it down.
I'm totally cool with that. I am not doing a Talmudic dive into how Bill Mantlo wrote and what certain articles mean versus others. Hell no. Fine. 1 year. Move on.
Heather is going for a swim in what looks to be extremely not swimming-friendly waters off the island's coast, while very heavy-handedly saying that the Alpha Flight JMH assembled was all kinds of messed up and that hers is so much more stable. This is a repeated theme.
And this is absolute bullshit.
Go on.
I don't think that you can make the claim this soon after losing half your team that this new formulation is more stable. You have no evidence to support that at this point. For all she knows, the next battle box is going to go down to some sort of electromagnetic pulse that someone produces. I don't know.
Yeah, probably her.
Well, right. So, there's no real reason for her, no evidence for her to back that statement up with. Yes, she's reinstated Beta Flight, but lest we forget, it was the lower flights that contributed to the death of her husband. So really, she's recreating the circumstances that led to the original Guardian's downfall. So again, this is absolute bullshit and is more about Heather feeling like she's a leader and she's constructed a team and a family than it has anything to do with the reality of the situation. And I want to be clear. I like Heather. I think she's a great character. This statement, though, is just
the repeatedness of it, you know? I wonder
because she's trying to convince herself.
Yes, that's where I was getting at, is if we read this as her trying to convince herself that the team slimming down so much and getting smaller, as a leader, that must feel terrifying. Yeah, you did personally murder at least one of those. Two of those. There's a lot going on, but we don't get any narrative reinforcement of that reading. But that is what comes across to me on that page, is that Heather's not doing so hot and needs to give herself these types of pep talks about how she's better than Mac, who is the only other yardstick to measure this job, because it's just the two of them who have ever done it.
Meanwhile, Dr. Whitman Knapp and the Purple Girl are watching their boss cavort in the waves in her swimsuit while they flirt. My daughter will come back on to voice the Purple Girl. We're just going to find situations and statements that she can say that have absolutely nothing to do with Whitman Knapp.
It has to pass the Bechdel test.
Fuck, man.
Box looks over the scene and says, "The kids seem happy together. Kids! Kara may be a teenager, but Whitman Knapp's a medical school graduate. I hope he knows not to take advantage of her."
Once again, this is total bullshit.
Yeah, the script just says rage about this a while. You folks can probably generate our own rage. Plug it in AI. It'll give you close enough.
Or don't just think to yourself, or hell, listen to the last episode where we flipped out about this for a while. Like, it's gross and it's dumb, and it
is commented on by 2/3 of Alpha Flight here, and nobody thinks to step in and say, "Hey, Knapp, maybe let the paint dry a bit. Give it 5 years. Go do something else."
Madison phases out of his armor, runs into the ocean, and he and Heather share a dialogue-free page romance resulting in a from here to eternity style kiss.
Wasn't that movie scene meant to convey sex? Did Beta Flight just watch 2/3 of Alpha Flight do it in the ocean? What is going on around here?
I hate everything about this conversation. The remaining third of Alpha Flight, Wanda Lankowski, again, the case for Wanda, is watching all 4 of the other members from the swing on the porch of the mansion. She thinks, "Cupid seems to be working overtime on Tamarind Island this summer. Those little arrows of his hitting everybody in sight, except me. Maybe the god of love is confused, not sure what to make of someone who was formerly Sasquatch, formerly dead, and formerly a man."
And I feel we should point this out. Wanda is wearing a lovely summer ensemble of kicky sandals, and above-the-knee skirt, and I think a strapless bikini top, all in kind of a goldenrod color, sunflower, something like that. It is an extremely femme outfit. And Wanda is languidly stretched along the porch swing with her legs crossed. And, I mean, you could draw a man in this pose, and I could see Byrne doing that, actually. But this looks like an extreme comfort with femininity that I did not expect from secret agent linebacker superhero Dr. Walter Lankowski finding himself in a woman's body. Because remember, Wanda is not a separate person. This is Walt. They said the body is made up of snowbirds and that's why Walt turns into Wanda now. But the brain inside, the soul that is animating this whole thing, is Walt inside of there. And that matters, and I feel like that kind of comes across here, except in this.
Or anyone other than Mantlo writing this book, I could certainly see a couple of issues of nothing but sweatpants and sweatshirts, or even wearing Walt's old clothes. But Wanda, yeah, absolutely seems very comfortable with femininity when it comes to how she presents herself and how she interacts with other people.
I don't know about the interacting. So when she was with Cody last issue, she called him cutie as Sasquatch, and then watched his shock-faced as she changed into human. And she made a similar comment to Northstar back in the New Life Clinic about giving up his seat to a woman. I feel like those are more of a tease poke at the men around Wanda than actually flirting with them or expecting anything. I think that Walt in Wanda is being the woman he wanted to see in the world, and that is a woman as confident as a man, but super hot and tastefully feminine at the same time. Folks, we've got a lot of thoughts on this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they get fleshed out, because this is the most interesting thing going on right now, other than wondering where Box gets his power.
The issue closes back beneath Parliament Hill, where Gary Cody sits slumped against the wall, eyes glassy, portaputer still strapped to his thorax. I mean, it is his thorax. I just didn't expect. Okay. While an alarm on the control panel beeps next to him, and the cocoon appears to be open.
Veeps. The panel veeps. The sound effect isn't beep. It's veep. What does that sound like?
I think Next Generation-ish.
Good call.
Regardless of what it sounds like, what it does do is auto-dial Wolverine's private line with a message saying, "Logan, this is Hudson. Bedlam is free."
What time is it? It's guest star time! What I'm wondering is, how did that phone call reach Wolverine?
Well, he just never changed his number. You didn't change your number back in the day.
No, but he's moved all the time. You can't take your number with you when you move around. Like, JMH had to set this up when Wolverine was, living at the mansion? He was in space for 8 months. What happens if Bedlam gets loose while they're all fighting the Brood? You know?
Well, considering that Bedlam looks, to find out he looks like the Brood.
Yeah, go figure. That brings us to Alpha Flight number 53, titled "A Blast from the Past!" Cover date, December 1987. Credits are the same as 51, except for Tom DeFalco is listed as Predator-in-Chief, which is weirdly aggressive, but, it's nice to see a goofy Marvel credit again. Is this the last goofy Marvel credit that we're going to read out? Stay tuned, listeners.
On the cover, Box. He's giant. Or at least his torso is giant enough to hinge open 2 doors so Wolverine can leap out from where he had been contained safe and warm inside of him.
I'm not touching that one.
Coward. It's a very solid cover, but I feel like I've seen it so many times, I don't notice it anymore. Like, again, to your point of 51 and 53, I'm pretty sure I've seen these issues in shops too. So it just is what it is.
Now that I said it, you're like, yeah. And listeners, next time you're in a shop, first of all, ask them with your voice if they have any Alpha Flight, just to watch how they respond, because it's always delightful. There's a look of confusion as to, are they serious? And then there's a look of horror as they realize you are serious. And then they have to say no, generally.
Again, the corner box is the same setup as last issue, but with a full figure of Heather and no Knapp, because, say it with me, Knapp sucks.
Splash page open shows Mansion Alpha as a shattered pile of smoking ruins, a small plane parked on the grass next to it, and a figure with Wolverine hair points saying, "Too late." You could be forgiven for mistaking this for an X-Men book, since it opens up with a mansion in smoldering ruins.
It's what it looks like. It looks like the X-Mansion just got, done blown up again.
One of the neat things about the Uncanny Experience was that they had in the hallway, as you walk in, a fake history document framed on the wall, and it was talking about the rebuilding efforts after the Juggernaut had destroyed the mansion, and all the historic things. It was the boring thing you would put up for a real mansion. And I said to one of the people running it, I said, "Hey, you should do one of those for every time the mansion has been destroyed." So that as you walk down the hallway, it's just time after time. And this is how we rebuilt it after Sinister destroyed it. And this is how we rebuilt it after Operation Zero Tolerance destroyed it. And it just hammers home how often it happened. And the X-Men fans who are at an event like that would love a gag like that.
It's a good gag. As Wolverine searches the rubble, he finds a little tiny box colored toy thing. I don't know. It's weird looking, man. That, when Wolverine picks up, springs into life and turns into a full-size box, with Madison then phasing out, saying,
"Out of my mind, out of my mind, out of my mind." Wolverine brings him to his senses
by slapping the shit out of him.
No, he claws a water line and the water splashes across him.
Okay, that was not entirely clear.
And he squeezes the tail out of Jeffries, whom he calls Jeffries and not Mr. Jeffries.
We get a flashback to 2 pages of Alpha Flight training in their version of the Danger Room. That's actually just Jeffries transmutating it all around, trying to kill his teammates. Before we move on with this, one thing we forgot to mention in the previous issue is that Cody thinks back on the various flights, and we see who was on which flight, etc. But Jeffries on Gamma Flight, his code name? Mr. Jeffries. That's just how he's always been referred to this whole time, which makes you wonder if Jeffries is actually his last name.
There's a lot to unpack there, friend, but I'm going to save it for a rainy day.
Circling back to the danger room.
Jeffrey starts off saying, "Wish I was doing it with you, Vindicator, instead of doing it to you."
God damn it, there are children present. And at the end, Heather says, "You give good training, Mr. Jeffries. And now for that private workout I told you about."
Oh, God.
It must be insufferable to share not just a job, but also living quarters with them at this stage of their relationship.
I believe it's called guilt-free rutting, and you're entitled to it after your spouse dies.
I don't think that's how that works. As the session is wrapping up, an energy blast shakes the building and blows up from the floor, hurling Box into the air. When he regains flight control, he notices 8 life signs instead of 7. As he rushes back to his team, he meets the bad guy, who is indistinct. He's got golden armor and metal bits, a long blue cape and blue boots, and his head looks like, well, yeah, kind of like a brood.
He is generically dumb. He's here for a short time, not a good time. This new villain declares,
"My creator called me Bedlam the Brain Blast."
Yeah.
That's the best we can do, fellas?
Really? Bedlam's brain blasts are both intensely telepathic, but also affecting the physical matter around him. He's a really, really ugly Jean Grey with no training and, oh yeah, was a convicted murderer before he was turned into this by an unethical scientist with a penchant for young secretaries.
Hey. Young secretary. We don't know if there were others.
There's always others, Tom.
The last 15 years have taught us nothing. Box shrank himself down and buried his mind in the armor's computers, to get away from Bedlam, who took the team to the Arctic Circle. A narration box informs us this sprawling complex was not here yesterday. So Bedlam used his brain blast to build yet another sprawling complex out of snow and ice.
Oh, and turning it into other stuff, I guess.
I mean, this feels like Master of the World reference without any knowledge of how the hell that actually worked.
We don't know how Bedlam works, and we won't have time to find out. My takeaway from this is Box can shrink. I thought he was bound by mass and volume limits somewhat realistically.
Maybe the little thing he turned into was the size of a football, but weighed 4 tons, or whatever the armor weighs. I mean, we can point to things being mantlo threads all we want, but I would really like to stop making excuses at some point.
Yeah, this point is going to kick in the next arc in the book proper. Since Bedlam psychically absorbed all the knowledge of Alpha and Beta flight, he put a few pieces together. First, he can't kill JMH's revenge because JMH is already dead. And second, he learned about Omega and New Life Clinic and went and grabbed the weirdo people from those shattered tubes back in issue number 49, which feels a really long time ago.
Who are just waiting down the basement of New... Whatever. Okay, it was a scramble thing. Fine.
Bedlam hooks up everyone to a psychic hotline, and they all dump their lives and hopes and dreams to each other, and this page is super cool. I said that Jim Lee didn't do much panel work, but there are 8 columns here of 5 panels, fills the entire page with these little bitty rectangles. The top panel of each column is a picture of the person and their name, and then the panels tell their origin story in a super efficient way underneath. It's overwhelming and confusing, and it kind of conveys the chaos they all must be feeling under the spell of Bedlam.
It is a cool page, and I would say I wonder if this came from the artist or the writer, but pretty confident this came from the artist.
I don't know for a fact, I'm just guessing, but it doesn't feel like Bill gives a lot of art direction, that this is a lot of Marvel style, where Bill says this is what the story is. And so, good job, Jim. The new characters are called the Derangers, and they totally don't matter because only one of them appears again. I will only comment that one of them is impervious to pain and wears a hockey mask and gives very Casey Jones from Ninja Turtles vibes. And Casey Jones appeared in 1985 in the comics, so that's totally probable that Bill would be aware of Casey Jones. There's
an attempt to make the Derangers somewhat analogous to Alpha Flight. One of them is a split personality that can split into 2 people, and another was a Canadian housewife before being transformed by Lionel Jeffries into what she is now, which is like a bomb, basically. But the comparisons fall flat and feel like whims tossed in and not developed.
Wolverine and Jeffries arrive, masking their psychic patterns by burying their human minds deep inside the beast and the machine, respectively.
Quick thought on that. How did Box prevent the beast from ripping him apart from the inside? Like, if you're going to say that Wolverine has gone like full, like, animalistic berserker to hide his human mind. Like, cool. I guess that would be an approach. But he's inside of something, and he doesn't do well when inside of things when he's got a human mind. So just point of order, whatever. Mantlo thread, moving on. With so many minds to keep track of and control, Bedlam loses focus, and eventually the fight turns against him such that Heather kills him by blowing his face off.
Boy, there is a reason she's called Murder Mommy Heather, right? I think Heather has killed more people on panel than Wolverine has at this point. And I'm not saying that to exaggerate. Like, that might literally be true.
Alpha Flight claims Bedlam's brand new Arctic base as their own because, as we say here, you keep what you kill.
That will never not be funny. There's an attempt to inject the plot point about whether JMH made Wolverine what he is, but it's kind of muddy and used as a distraction instead of trying to lay down the canon story for it. Seems like Bill is still playing will he, won't he, as to whether or not that's true or not, just for the story's sake. So he's just kind of dangling that out some more. But he did just write a whole story where JMH did that to someone else. So it seems still possible that the connection to Weapon X is made. And you know what I'm disappointed that Heather doesn't realize is that, okay, well, my husband may have taken this convicted murderer and experimented upon him to make him a super being. But at least he didn't do it to my friend Logan. Like, you have incontrovertible proof that he did exactly what you were concerned he was about that would make him a monster, and yet you're just relieved that it wasn't that he did it to this guy that you like and you bone.
I think Heather's just doing a lot of bargaining these days, just across the board.
I mean, she's hooking up with Madison Jeffries, good lord.
This is probably the first time she's killed someone in a while where it actually felt good,
Wow, man, that was dark.
But not inaccurate. All right, so some final thoughts. I have to say, after so many, as we discussed at the outset, one-offs, two issuers, what have you, and just that relentless march towards issue 50 and clearing the board. This isn't a fantastic story. It's also not terrible. Like it's perfectly serviceable. It does a decent job, and I appreciate kind of the return to some sort of form of normalcy within the context of like a superhero comic.
It's knowingly welcoming new readers. It's acknowledging what came before, and it's opening doors to new things, and it changes up the status quo. Bill Mantlo, why can't you just be consistently terrible? Because you've got everything going here. I just don't like where you're driving. It's like you have the most comfortable car, the best cooler of snacks possible, and Bill pulls up and says, "Hey, get in, loser. We're going to Topeka." Like, sure, the ride is great, but I don't like where we're going.
Since the Purple Girl's introduction, there's been a lot of focus on mind control and kind of amped up sense of surveillance as a thing, which I don't know. I'm just noting it feels kind of on the nose with the world these days, but if there is a Mantlo thread or like a Mantlo theme, mind control and the surveillance state really seem to be top of mind for him, which frankly makes more than a bit of sense considering like the kinds of books he writes and that he's now working as a public defender. So yeah, interesting, Bill. I think you have been fun to talk to.
I wish we could. I really do. My final point that I wanted to make, I think there's some metatextual communication going on in one of these pages as Bedlam is setting this up, and he wants Alpha Flight to fight the Derangers for the privilege of serving by his side, supervillain shit. As he's pitting them together, Heather replies, "You're mad. We won't battle another super team simply because you decree it." Now, this is the second issue of Tom DeFalco? It sounds to me like that's Bill Mantlo telling Tom DeFalco that we're not going to fight another superhero team just because you decreed it. Because think back, when has Alpha Flight fought another super team? It was pretty much Omega Flight, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. Is there anything? I mean, you're listening to the history.
These I haven't gotten to the DeFalco. I haven't even gotten to Shooter yet. He just turned up in the book as like a 17-year-old. Oh God, it's been amazing hearing names. In the first chapter of the book, Artie Simek is mentioned. And I was like, oh shit, he was working on Alpha Flight. He was around for a long time. But this is the type of decree that would come down based on sales, where the publisher has to say, hey, editors, here is what the sales analysis tells us. The the ones where super teams fight are the ones that sell better. Kids want action. There was a story in the book of Stan Lee coming up the elevator and hearing two people saying, "Oh yeah, everybody's all about the kung fu movies these days because they're nonstop violence." And Stan gets off the elevator and walks in the office and he's like, "All right, everybody, this month we're doing nonstop violence." That's how decisions get made. You know, when the guy who publishes your story on paper to sell it for profit says this is the story that we need, the creative tries to come up with the best story that they can that meets the criteria they've been given. And this feels like a new editor-in-chief telling the books about a new direction. And this feels like the way that the writers can make those comments to other people that they're working with in plausibly deniable ways. But I didn't catch that until I had started up this audiobook and was thinking more in that actual real world business type of way about this instead of my fanboy hat of, gosh, I love comic books. These are just so much fun.
Well, I think it'll be interesting once you get a little bit more caught up to the Alpha Flight period to kind of see what you can bring to bear on our conversations. Like,
yep, I'm doing my homework, Tom. I'm doing the reading.
What kind of editorial directives were coming down? What kind of sales pressures were kicking in that might inform a few things? I think that's fun. I think that can help round out our discussion, a little bit further. And
I thought about jumping in with the Jim Shooter era, but I decided to start at the beginning because, as you have pointed out to the listeners before, I am a completionist.
Oh, so much so. But yeah, I think adding a little bit more on. I mean, look.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah. Folks, we are interested in providing as much entertainment and information as we can through this, which is why I do my little literary things. That also just keeps me happy. Chris knows I get grumpy. But yeah, I think this will be a welcome addition.
With that, Why Not Read Alpha Flight is brought to you by listeners like you who subscribe to our Patreon, and by the Roxxon Energy Corporation, parent corporation of the Excelsior Embroidery Company, turning thread into thunder where every piece is stitched with style, sarcasm, and just a dash of superhuman flair. This week, we're featuring a Sugar Skull Girl oversized patch that looks super. You can see this and 100 more designs at excelsiorembroidery.etsy.com, where listeners of Why Not can use the coupon code WN503 to get 50% off when you order any 3 items from the Etsy store. When company's coming over, bring out the good towels. Excelsior!
Why Not Read Alpha Flight with Chris and Tom is recorded in Chicago, Illinois, and deep beneath stately Baker Manor in a fashionable neighborhood outside St. Louis. It is written by Chris Baker, edited by Tom Flynn, with additional voice work, someday soon, from my daughter, as well as cat noises courtesy of Teeny the Chonky Calico. Our theme song is Oh Canada by Five Iron Frenzy. New episodes are released every other Monday at www.thewhynotpod.com and wherever you get your podcasts, where ratings and reviews are always welcome as a way to help our community grow. And we love hearing from our community. You can reach us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and by email at whynotapod@gmail.com. That's whynotehpod@gmail.com.
Join us next time as we swing back to mop up issue number 47, where Heather goes to her parents' house, and the next and final Alpha Flight Annual, where Box turns into an off-brand Grimlock and fights a dinosaur.
What a combination.
See you next time, everybody.